Go baby, what's good guys? Yoku here, and one of the things that I've noticed when it comes to Honkai Star Rail, and probably one of the things that I'm most anticipating in this game, is the light cones. Now I know a lot of you look at light cones as like, ah man, I don't really want to spend money or spend gacha on the 5-star weapons, haha, Genshin Impact. And while I do agree with you, there are a few things that I want to go over and break down in this video as to why you might want to change the way you think when it comes to light cones in Star Rail particularly. But before we get into today's video, your boy got a sponsor, okay? Our sponsor today, aomethijg, reached out to your boy and they're like, yo, we see you doing some things with Microsoft Edge. We don't like that. Check out our browser. And so I did. I booted up aomethijg. The download was super simple. The install was clean. And here we are. But when you first boot up aomethijg, I know it can seem a little overwhelming, but relax. I know they've got endless customization, but I got you. GX mods can completely change the way that you use and look at your browser. I'm a big fan of Lo-Fi Girl, and when I saw this mod and they had Lo-Fi Girl as a mod, I just had to install it. Now it kind of feels like I'm listening to Lo-Fi all the time, even when I'm not. aomethijg establishes themselves as the browser for gamers, and so far it's looking to be true. Most of you see it on stream. I know I'm a tab whore, and I mean that in every sense of the word possible. So of course, as I'm looking through Opera, I'm looking for something to handle tab management. And fortunately, with GX Control, I can actually just limit how much CPU or RAM Opera is allowed to use, meaning no matter how many tabs I have open, the browser will never steal resources while I'm gaming or streaming. As a man who will take over the world, aomethijg gives you complete control over your CPU and RAM. Kills CPU draining tabs, frees up network space, and diverts resources to where you need them. Download GX today for free using my link in the description. Yo, that sounds kind of weird to say for the first time, man. With that out of the way, let me break down my thoughts about what's going on. Now, in Honkai Star Rail, we have our light cones. Our light cones are basically our weapons, and there were a few statements that I made before where I said that for what it feels like, light cones will become a must-have for certain characters. Now, I know that term is a really strong term, and I don't mean this in a way of like you need to get this light cone. I think some of you understood what I was saying that way when I was talking about Jing Yuan and his light cone, saying that you want this light cone, you need this light cone, it'll complete them, yada yada, this and that. It doesn't mean that you need to get the light cone. There are other options. It just means that light cone plus character equals the complete version of the character, the Super Saiyan, as I've been saying lately. And when you break that down into a game like Star Rail, every single character from what I've seen has a signature light cone, whether that be a 4-star or a 5-star. There is something that seems to just kind of work with them. The game is kind of targeting this character to go with this light cone and saying, hey, use me and I'll make you the best that you can be. Now, this of course comes into two different categories, those of us that are from Genshin Impact and those of us that are from Honkai Impact. And I guess there might be a middle here, right, where Star Rail is your first of the three, and that's fine. But for right now, I'm only going to focus on these two to really drive my argument. Coming from a background of Genshin Impact, the weapons are something that kind of, you want them if you can get them, but otherwise you don't really need them. And Genshin Impact has a ton of options when it comes to any character. Sure, a 5-star weapon will make my character super duper strong, but in reality, I could still clear the Spiral Abyss with a 4-star weapon or sometimes a 3-star weapon. A lot of the time, and a lot of the videos that you will see when it comes to Genshin Impact will almost always say you don't need the 5-star weapon, and that's true. You don't need the 5-star weapon. It looks nice, don't get me wrong, and it's super cool. But once we started to get towards a different era, I began to make my claims. My claims being that the game was leaning towards a little bit of Honkai Impact 3rd, or starting to turn into Honkai Impact 3rd when it comes to the weapons, when it comes to the characters, and then matching them together. Again, doesn't mean that you need the weapon. It doesn't mean that you need the light cone or anything like that. We'll use Yelan as an example. Yelan is a fantastic character, some that would be considered a must-pull character. Anyone that has Yelan on her account or their account is, you're just kind of, you're golden, you're set. Without bringing constellations into the mix, Yelan at an E0 or C0 plus the Aqua Simulacra now makes a Super Saiyan Yelan. Something that she could do before on her own with any other weapon is great, but then you give her this signature weapon and she becomes that much more phenomenal. You do it again with Nilou, you do it again with Alhaitham. These characters have their signature weapons and then it just it feels good. But once again, Genshin Impact, it's not needed. So let me go over to my second half of the argument, Honkai Impact 3rd, a game where I managed to get all the way up to level 80 before stopping the game. In Honkai Impact, there are a few things that I was very much made aware. Those few things being that once I pull a character, especially if it's my DPS Valkyrie, I almost 9 times out of 10 want their signature weapon, and it usually runs at the same time as the character, similar to other gacha games. And in this case, I'm going to talk about Raiden Mei, or Hersher of Thunder, I believe is her name. Now in Honkai Impact in particular, using Hersher of Thunder, I love that character, by the way, easily what got me into the game to begin with. But point being is that she has a signature weapon called 7 Thunders of Retribution. 7 Thunders is her signature weapon. This signature weapon is great, but it only does a thing for Hersher of Thunder. Other characters may be able to use it and they can get some value out of it between stats, but something that Honkai Impact was great at was the fact that each character had so many or a few other options to really focus on and use, that when you get a signature weapon, it belongs to that signature character. And in Raiden's case, Raiden was able to use this weapon and gain a new skill. And I don't want to say that that's going to happen in Star Rail, but if we look at Jing Yuan, for instance, the light cone just speaks to him. No one else really benefits from that light cone in the same way that Jing Yuan does. You could use it on Himiko, sure, and then it'll benefit Himiko a little bit more in terms of damage because of the follow-up attacks, but it's not made for Himiko. And so I've explained this, but where exactly am I going? Io, what are you talking about? You've been rambling for X amount of time talking about different games. What does this have to do with Star Rail? I have a thesis or theory. It's still a thesis, right? It's definitely a thesis. I have a thesis that in Star Rail in particular, we're going to get to a point where we are in the best of both worlds, where you can use an assortment of weapons similar to Genshin Impact, but you also have signature weapons that you can use for specific characters that will take them to another level, just like in Honkai Impact. So while it's not as restrictive as Honkai Impact, I do find that there is some type of balance, or like I said, the best of both worlds. Not only that, but something in Honkai Impact is that they have upgrades, if you will. I'm not too sure what to call them. Maybe somebody else that plays Honkai Impact could actually answer this for me and give me the correct statement, but I do know that there was another weapon that came out for Raiden, and this was around the time that I wasn't playing the game too much, but I managed to get this weapon as well. She has a newer weapon that came out to, I don't want to say replace 7 Thunders of Retribution, but it was just better overall. And of course, the Retribution, right? There's like Narukami, there's Rumble. They all have a different name after them. So I'm not too sure what it is, but I know Kiana has one. I know that the Hersher of Sentience, hers was pretty static, if I'm not mistaken. I don't remember. Oh, the gloves, right? The gloves. Domain of Sentience. I had to go and look it up. The Domain of Sentience are her signature weapons. What I've noticed in Honkai Impact is that multitude of character signature weapons, they exist. There's a multitude of them. It's not just one, right? Genshin Impact has Yelan. She has her Aqua Simulacra. That's hers. We know that. Now, what if they made a second version of the Aqua Simulacra? And so it was still for Yelan, but now it's for a better version of Yelan or other characters. You guys get what I'm saying? I expect this to happen. In fact, I predict it could happen with Honkai Star Rail. I don't think that we're gonna get the Himiko's light cone in the night of Milky Way, or in whatever it's called, something about a Milky Way, night of the Milky Way. There we go. Night on the Milky Way. I got it. Night on the Milky Way is what her signature light cone is called. I would not put it past the game, the developers, whoever, to see them come up with a second light cone sometime in the future, 3 months from now, 4 months from now, whatever the case may be, that boost Himiko significantly. Like, it's almost like a buff without actually buffing the character, but she gets a proper weapon. So finally, back to Honkai Star Rail, I do feel like this game is gonna get to that point. Not immediately, of course, the game is barely coming out, but I do think sometime within the first year, we're going to start seeing different light cones come out that look or feel, or they actually are signature weapons for these characters, but they work on other characters. Who knows? We might see 2 or 3 Himiko light cones. We might see another Seele or Zila light cone that pops out. We might see a Sushang light cone, and she might get a 5-star variant of her own light cone. All these things are possibilities. I don't want to cut anything off. I don't want to make it seem like, oh, well, Genshin didn't do that, so it's 100% not possible for Honkai Star Rail to do that. For those that don't know, Honkai Star Rail is actually developed by a completely different team. And this team has already came out both through the stream interview they had and their own private interviews. And they've said they've taken the better things of Honkai Impact and the better things of Genshin, and they use that as inspiration to develop a good game. So why wouldn't they come up with a better weapon system, not the banner, but a better weapon system, a better gear system for the characters overall, to basically make it so that not one character ever feels like they're going to get outclassed. We all know power creep is a big issue. We hate it. But if they were to find a way to make power creep irrelevant through the use of the light cone system, why wouldn't they do it? Guys, if you agree or disagree, let me know in the comments down below. This is honestly just sparking conversation about the game in a more positive but encouraging, or friendly, that's not enlightening, that's the word I'm looking for, a more enlightening manner. If you want to talk more about Honkai Star Rail, then join my Discord down below. It's in the pinned comment, it's in the description down below, and that'll be it. I can't say my usual outro because it's inappropriate for YouTube. Smell you later.